Let's go.
큐.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadia Park and I am a coffee creator. And as you can tell from my accent, I am a full Korean American, born in Minnesota, raised in California. And then I went to school in Pennsylvania, in Philly, at the University of Pennsylvania. And it's already been around 5 years since I've lived in Korea now. And the biggest question I get is, why are you still here in Korea? And the answer is because of coffee. Smells good. I wish you could smell the coffee. So yeah, I always did have a passion for coffee. Even when I was younger, I thought being a barista was the coolest thing ever. But it wasn't until after freshman year I fell in love with coffee, and it was because I went to a one-day class with my aunt, actually in Korea. And it was just a one-time experience where I was making coffee, but my aunt said it would be a fun experience, so I decided to go. And it was exactly this moment, this kind of meditative process of creating coffee, that made me enjoy it in the beginning. As someone who had studied her entire life, finally being able to do something that could relax my brain for a bit and just focus on the pouring of the coffee, the water, helped me focus and not have to think about anything else. And once you get into the pouring and the meditative process, the part that comes after is, of course, tasting the coffee. And once you start tasting the coffee and you pour a couple times, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, you get to taste the differences in the coffee. And I think that's when you fall in love with it. It's like, oh, with my own hands, I'm able to create something that tastes different and better every single time. But it was one particular moment where I fell in love with this coffee, and that was at a women's center. We were brewing coffee for any student who would want to come by for a study break. I was making coffee, brewing coffee, and there was one student who came along and she started a conversation with me. And one of the questions was just, so how's your mom doing? What are your philosophical thoughts on blank, blank, blank? I don't remember exactly the topic now, but it was that moment I realized that we were talking about things that were not just internships, not just the normal stressful things of college life, but things that we never really stopped to think about, to ask each other. So I finally saw coffee as a medium to bring two people together and connect with them. But I do think it was at that single moment that made me realize that coffee is a passion project of mine that I wanted to continue and pursue in the future. Of course, it wasn't until I met this particular separation hand drip method that I thought of just going into the corporate world, into coffee corporate world, something in food and beverage. But it was because of this particular separation hand drip that I learned here in Korea that made me actually want to pursue this further and build this. I saw this as an opportunity to create a community. So once I came to Korea, I asked the teacher / the owner here at the time, could you please help me learn coffee in some sort of way? I will do anything to learn that particular method that you are making. And he took me on. I started with roasting and eventually hand drip at the same time to develop this skill that took quite a long time to actually master. And I still have a lot to go. Lots more to do, lots more to learn. Again, it smells so good. I wish you could smell it from across the camera. So yeah, as you can see, I make coffee like this every day. I do this for myself, but also for customers. And I thought, you know, instead of making this for myself and quietly just doing it, I figured, why not film myself? And so that's how the whole Instagram journey started. So a lot of people ask me, how did you get started on this whole Instagram journey? And it was 2 things. One, I wanted to create a community around coffee, and I knew coffee was going to be the medium, the beverage in which people can come down and sit with to then talk about things that were not just coffee. It could be their future career, it could be their issues with their family, it could be anything that was going on in their lives that they wanted to talk about. And so I figured that if I relay my message or bring people along just to drink coffee with me through the online internet world, then maybe somehow someone will be able to connect and enjoy a cup of coffee with me in a virtual sense. And of course, now I'm going to mix the two and enjoy a cup in a bit. But before then, got to make one more cup. think one other thing people are really curious about as someone who does coffee in the Instagram world, how do I create content / why did you decide to do content this way? What was your idea behind it? And I think it was just a couple of things. The first thing was I didn't want to do something that was too educational. I wanted to focus on other things because I have never actually gone out to a Barista Championship or Brewers Championship before. The biggest thing I think though on Instagram that I did differently or that helped me grow is I literally posted every single day. I made sure to stay consistent, and that was the only thing. At times, of course, I would post a couple videos and be like, wait, this is not the path I want to go. Like, why am I not growing? Do I have to change something? But then I realized, you know what? You never know what's going to blow up. So I kept at it. I just kind of did what I could do best, what I do best. And of course, including English was my strong point as well. And by the time people came onto my page, they saw the things I were doing already. And they said, oh, so Nadia is this type of person. She talks about this kind of stuff. This is the format of her reels. And so I think that's what kind of helped me grow. I've also met a lot of people who are in this industry who find it actually really toxic. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to challenge and change. One of my dreams is to change the entire coffee culture in the world to a place where we're a bit more respectful of one another, to be able to say, oh, you are correct in your own way, but I prefer mine. And have that peace with each other. And so one of the questions I actually got was, so many people are into gears, so many people into recipes. How do you fight that kind of scene, that trend in especially the social media market? And for me, it was just ignoring all of that. Like, yes, of course, having the better gear can help with standardization of your coffee, produce very similar cups every single time. But for me, it was actually the focus on being curious about the coffee itself that kind of took me into a different route. And of course, also talking about the different things outside of coffee helps me stay away from focusing too much on the gear, the grinders, the machines, the extra tools that we use now with espresso machines. But of course, a barista's job, someone who is providing coffee, needs to always stay curious. And I think that's the biggest thing when I'm giving advice to people who struggle to keep up or don't know what to do. They've had passion for coffee, but they're kind of lost in the industry. And ask me, how do you stay in coffee for so long? How do you maintain that passion for it? And honestly, sometimes I can't keep passion for it. Like, it comes and goes all the time. It's not all fun and games all the time. But the more you start to understand coffee, the more you delve into the beans themselves, the process itself, the more interesting it becomes. You're able to tweak the minute details of every single cup that you make, for every single roasting process, for the actual extraction process. There are so many steps that you can change and alter the variables. And I also always like to say happy experimenting, and that applies to my coffee mostly, but of course life as well. Perhaps that's just that I'm easily amused. So people do ask me, how did you find a passion for coffee, and what makes you want to stay in this industry for the future? And for me, honestly, it's just two things. One, I realized that coffee would become my medium to connect people and bring them to a place of relaxation. And two is because I want to expand on that culture. And two, it's because I know I have this particular skill in my toolbox now that I'm able to share with others. The separation drip process is probably my favorite coffee method, and it is the reason why I wanted to delve further into the coffee world. But it was mostly the ability to, with my hands and my water pouring, take out the bad negative flavors of the coffee, aka the excessive caffeine, the excessive astringency, the aspects of coffee that leave a bad aftertaste in your mouth and also leave your mouth very dry. Because now I can provide this coffee at any time of the day. And even if people come and say, oh, I have problems with nausea when I drink caffeine, or my head really hurts, or people who say, oh, I don't want to drink coffee after 5 p.m., I am now able to provide a coffee that they can drink without any of those health issues. One of the key messages that I like to relay through my social media also is the fact that I want people to hold on to their dreams. And yes, some people are like, oh, I don't really have a dream. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, in this realistic world, how is that even possible? But I always like to use that phrase of, if you reach for the moon, you'll land among the stars. And so I think that conversation got me to think about how, instead of focusing so much on the exact thing that I want to be doing, is what is the general goal in life? What is the kind of help that I want to do? What is the role, the position that I have for myself, for other people that I want to pursue? And so I think that's why, for me, it was building a community, building connections, sharing those peaceful moments with one another. How do you stay so positive and giddy all the time, Nadia? How are you so sure about what you're doing? How are you able to just follow your dreams, your passion? And one of the things that I like to tell people is, don't follow a passion, but it's a matter of following opportunities. Being able to also recognize opportunities as opportunities is luck. It's also your open-mindedness, and being able to find those opportunities and grab onto them is a skill. And that's kind of what I want to do. Not knowing what you like to do in life, just go for whatever opportunity you find, and eventually that passion will come to you. And so for me, I was just open to taking a one-day class with my aunt, and that opportunity became my passion. And people say I'm lucky to be able to find that passion. I didn't really care for coffee in the beginning. I was a Java chip frappuccino kind of person. I drank lattes all the time. So let me just enjoy this cup of coffee. When you do this kind of hand drip over and over again, you kind of develop an OCD for having to make sure the 3 servers are always in front of you. Like I always say, when I ask people what's your favorite coffee, my answer is my own coffee. It's because I know the flavors that I like the most. And it's that sweetness, that chocolatey flavor that I love so much. And the acidity, I'm more of a berry style kind of person, / stone fruit, more than a citrus flavor profile kind of girl. So yeah, as a self-proclaimed coffee creator, my goal is to use coffee as a medium to share connections, to share knowledge, to share love and care, and to be able to help others get back on their feet and pursue the dream that they might have ignored in the back of their mind. Because I too never thought I was going to do coffee long term. I was giving up on it. I was going to give up on it. I was just going to become a regular corporate slave in the world, a regular corporate worker. But I realized that's not what I want to do. I want to do something different. I want to contribute something to the world. And that for me was to be able to share and create a community with those around me with coffee.